This is the plaintiff, Jeffrey Fix. He says he hired the defendant and paid him $80,000 to build a dream swimming pool in his backyard. And the guy did mostly a good job. The one thing he did not install correctly was the pool heater. The defendant has given him nothing but a runaround about fixing it, and he's suing him for the $3,744 he's owed in repairs. This is the defendant, John Richard. He says he installed a beautiful pool, and the plaintiff was as happy as a clam when he completed it in 2018. A couple of years later, the plaintiff's heater went kaput because he didn't maintain a proper chemistry of the water because it was too acidic, which causes corrosion. He's a second-generation pool builder. He knows what he's doing and owes nothing because he didn't do anything wrong. He's accused of pooping out a pool.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says he paid the defendant $80,000 to build him a pool, but says the guy did something wrong, and now the pool won't heat. But the defendant says the plaintiff didn't keep the proper water chemistry, and that's why the heater went kaput. It's the case of Shiver Me Timbers.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Fix, you hired Mr. Richard's company, Rockstar Pools, to create a pool, and this was, you're in Lee County. What city are you in?
Fort Myers.
Okay. And the total for the pool was $80,000. You were very happy with the pool, but then you started having problems with a Pentair heater, correct?
I did, and I originally noticed that it wasn't installed correctly. I've owned pools for over 20 years at various homes that I've lived across the country. And I had notified John.
When did you originally notice that it wasn't installed correctly?
When I first noticed was December of 2017.
So why didn't you do something then?
So I notified John at that time, and I said, John, the pool isn't installed, or the heater isn't installed correctly because the water was always running through the pool heater all the time, whether I'm heating or not.
Right, but if you're not heating, it's not heating the water. So what's, first of all, you tell me, Mr. Richard, what was it that was done?
All right, my recollection of events is we installed the pool. Everything was working fine. A couple times after we installed the pool, before the issue came up with the heater, I would bring customers by. Very thankful of Mr. Fix allowing me to show customers the beautiful pool to sell new customers. At that point in time, I did notice a blue staining on the pool finish, which is an indicator of water chemistry that is not kept correctly. What happens is if the water chemistry goes too acidic, it'll react with the metal in the core of the heater and deposit blue film on the pool plaster itself.
And according to you, you say that any copper deposits were his fault. Why, Mr. Fix?
So I'm saying that it wasn't properly installed. He didn't notice any staining until I told him that there was the problem. And on March 26th of 2019, remember, we didn't have full pool heater failure until a year later. But on March 26th, we had the salt cell replaced. And at that time, the pool warranty company told me it was not installed correctly and that it could void all warranty on the heater. When
was the first time anybody told you that it was not installed correctly? Because just because you're a Floridian and you've had a pool all your life, that doesn't make you an expert. So the first time an expert tells you it was not installed correctly, according to you, is when Pentair came out. But we're skipping a bunch of stuff because Pentair came out why?
So Pentair came to the home because there was a problem with the salt cell. It was defective. So they had to replace the salt cell.
So hold on. So they come to your home, and on what day March of 2018, they tell you, by the way, the pool heater was installed improperly and it may void the warranty?
Yes.
Okay, do you have that in writing?
March 26th of 2018.
Do you have that in writing?
So I don't have anything from the warranty company stating that, but I did notify John.
No, I only have you. I know your text messages, you say it, but I can't, if I look in the mirror and I say, I am the Queen of England, that isn't two people saying it, you see? So that doesn't make me the Queen of England. I need to see where some professional, whether it's Pentair or anybody else who's been installing pools, actually says that that pool heater was installed incorrectly. Because I have read every text, every email between you and Pentair. You end up about to be in litigation with Pentair. They send a team over. Someone from Pentair goes back and forth. You end up settling with them. That's your lawsuit today, is you want him to repay what your settlement with Pentair was. They ended up giving you a new heater for $1,200, and you ended up having to pay $900 and something to install that new heater. And you ended up having to pay $800 and something to acid wash the copper deposits or whatever. And your position, Mr. Richard, is that's on you, homeowner, because you weren't maintaining things properly. Right, Mr. Richard?
That is correct, ma'am.
And that you installed the pool heater appropriately. Your position, Mr. Fix, is, oh no, you got to pay all this because installation was inappropriate. As far as I can see, the only person telling me that it was inappropriate is you telling me that someone else told you. Well, let me just explain that that's hearsay. So, but it's got such an easy fix, Mr. Fix, which is that you just get someone else to come and take a look at it and say, well, this was installed completely improperly. But I can't order him to pay you thousands and thousands of dollars based on you telling me that someone told you in March that it was installed improperly. You got to show me evidence. What proof do you have that it was installed improperly? Because when I read Pentair's emails, you know what they say, right?
Well, no, they actually say that they don't warrant a faulty installment.
Oh, they do. They do say that. We don't warrant a faulty installation. You know what they don't say? This was a faulty installation. What they do is respond to you telling them it's a faulty installation. You see? They say to you, listen, when our team went, you weren't maintaining it properly. And then they say to you, and then you say to them, no, that's not my fault that it was off. It's because it was improperly installed. They said, well, that doesn't matter because we don't warranty improper installation anyway. That's what they say. So let's talk about the fence damage, because apparently a fence got scratched, Mr. Richard. And at some point you agree to pay for the scratch because I guess it happened during the time you guys were there. So why didn't you?
I don't believe I agreed to pay for the fence. I agreed to fix the fence.
Did you?
And I didn't.
Did you fix the fence?
Not as of yet.
Oh, okay. Well, now what's going to happen? If you don't, you could have gotten that fixed so cheaply, and now he wants. How do you come up with $750 for the damage to the repair?
When I originally did the court documents, I was estimating $750. When it actually came through the HOA, it comes out to $850 per panel. I didn't resubmit the court documents.
Okay, let me just ask you a question though. When you said HOA, that's the homeowners association?
Yes.
Are they the ones who? What would they do? No. What I see is a receipt from all the panels when they got put up, and then you were dividing what each cost. How is that evidence of what a repair would be?
I don't have that. What I have is what it would cost to replace the panel, which is what I'm being asked to replace by the HOA.
Right, but okay, hold on.
Welcome back to the People's Court. The plaintiff says he paid the guy a fortune to build him a pool, but he can't go in it because it is absolutely freezing. The heater doesn't work. The defendant says the guy kept his water too acidic and it's corroded the pipes in the heater. Let's go back into the courtroom.
Show me proof that the HOA is making you replace the panel. Then I'll order him to pay the $800 and something. But you have to show me proof that the panel needs replacing and that you can't repair it, which would be infinitely less than putting in a whole new panel. So show me where the HOA is making you replace the panel.
I can't show you that.
Then we are done. And what I am going to order him to pay is, what part is this, Douglas?
Oh, I know what this is. This is rough justice.
Where I do some made-up rough justice of what I think the scratch should cost. So I am going to order the defendant, who has always acted like he was going to fix it and didn't. I'm going to order you to pay the plaintiff $250 to repair that. And Mr. Fix, I do not find that you have proven to me by a preponderance of the evidence that all the other amounts that you had to pay were his fault for improper installation. There would have been a very easy way to do that. You just have to have brought me evidence from an expert not just someone who's a Floridian and has had pools all their life, but an expert to have said, in fact, what you say. You can't just come into court and expect $4,000 to be ordered to be paid to you based on you telling me somebody told you. Okay? So that's my verdict, $250, verdict to the plaintiff.
Let's talk to Mr. Richard first, the defendant in the case. Mr. Richard, you've got to pay $250 to fix that fence. What are you thinking?
I think it's fair justice.
Okay. Mr. Fix, let me ask you a little bit about what you think of the judge's decision. You were suing for really $3,700. You're only getting $250. I know you're not very happy.
Well, obviously disappointed, but the judge is right. I didn't have the proper evidence that she required, and you have to accept that, but that's disappointing.
Well, that's the judge's decision, and you got to live with it. So thank you very much. All right, now it's time for another session of After the Verdict with Judge Millian and her husband, Judge John. Let's join them.
Marilyn, in this case, the plaintiff, Mr. Fix, was a very gracious loser, effectively in the case. He seems like a real gentleman. But there are some kinds of claims when you go to court, and it might be a car, an automobile, it might be a swimming pool, it might be an appliance or something. You're never going to get it across the finish line unless you've got expert testimony.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's not that hard to do. People do it in front of us every day. If you can't just say, hey, someone told me he did it wrong. You could, and he has to have known that. He knows that this was basically a shot in the dark, and he felt like the guy should have negotiated with him.
And the cost of your expert is compensable in the lawsuit. So,
sure, if you win, yes.
You shell
if it
out
turns out
$500 for the guy to take half a day off or whatever it is, or the whole day off to go and testify about your transmission repair, you can get that back if you prevail.
Yeah, and in small claims, a lot of small claims courts will actually allow you to bring it in writing, and you don't even have to, have the person in person by affidavit. So it's very, and especially now where people can testify through video because that's what we're reduced to during COVID. And he just needed to have the evidence. I don't even think he has the names of the people who he claims told him that. He's been convinced of this forever, but he can't convince anybody else. And that was a loser from the beginning, I think.
Ricky from Long Island wants to know, the judge uses text messages as evidence in the courtroom. Are text messages considered a contract between the parties? Well, they can be a contract. You can make a contract on toilet paper, on a napkin, and on text messaging if you have all of the necessary elements of a contract. But a lot of times the judge looks at these text messages, not necessarily to establish a contract, but to show who breached the contract in the conversations that go back and forth. And that will do it for this case. Litigants are inside the courtroom for the next case.